I know a lot of people have been waiting for this film for a long time. It's been something in the works. I was wondering if you could start off by telling us about the process of writing and where the story came from and what that process looked like for you.
The process. The process of writing is a long, lonely one for anybody who's a writer here. Are there writers in the house? Yeah, well, you know the pain. I wrote this story because I love London. I live in London. I wanted to place London on the map. The London that I knew, which is not the London that most Americans see. You tend to see like period London or Notting Hill London, which is very homogenous, but my London is very, very multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-gendered, and exciting. And I also wanted to put masculine center, butch, stud in the center of the frame in a story, because very often we are in the background or ridiculed or seen as objects of shame, and I wanted to kind of show the complexity of a stud's life. This is one stud. It's not meant to represent all studs, but it's a stud in London with her gay best friend. And I also wanted to show that lesbians have men and gay men as friends, and that's really important. It's important to me to write that because I don't live in a gender-segregated world, and I wanted to show that as well. Gay men have been very supportive and very loving to me and my family, and I wanted to show that. So, yeah, that's the process.
I was very, very charmed by both JJ and Seb, and I'm wondering if you could share with us about the casting of both of those roles and a little bit about the actors that played each of them.
Seb is played by Kyle Treslov, and JJ is played by Tania Miller. I put a casting call out on my blog and also on kind of casting websites to just get people, basically. I was very worried about the role of the stud and wasn't sure who I'd get, because as you probably know, there are not many stud identified or butch identified actresses out there, and if they're there, they're not going to get a lot of roles. So I just put an open casting call out, and Tania came and she studied up for the audition, and Kyle was amongst, it was a long casting process. It was 2 weeks. He came, but what I wanted to get was, when I'd cast Tania, I wanted to get the chemistry between Tania and the Seb character. So I had her work some lines and just see the energy between, her, and there were 3 Sebs, and it came down to Kyle, and he ended up, I was really happy with him in the end, and I lucked out with the performers who I thought were amazing. So that was the process. Tania is not stud identified at all. She is a high femme. So gender is performance, performance is gender. Let's get academic on y'all. So she's just a great actress, and worked very hard. She herself did a lot of preparation for the role. I told her she had to inhabit the body of a stud, and she did that. So during the filming, she discarded all her high heels, all her femme accoutrements, wherever they were, and she lived as a stud. And if there's an interview online, she talks about the kind of reactions she had from living as a stud, how it was very different to her being a femme, about being ignored, people being hostile to her, people seeing her as a young black man, and the kind of experience which was shocking for her, and quite scary sometimes, but she persevered and inhabited it. Enough respect to Tania.
Excellent performance. Let's discuss, I think, gender performance is gender. Let's discuss one of my favorite scenes in the film, which is the bathroom gender policing sequence, which I think can resonate with a lot of folks on the masculine center spectrum. Tell us about shooting that, writing that. I know, again, it's a very universal thing that happens, but I also love that it got turned around into this like sexy, meet cute, to where it was turned on its head a little bit in a very creative way.
Yeah. You know, like when things happen to you, you're never smart enough to say the smart one-liner. Usually I'm like so this happens to me all the time, as it must happen to a lot of studs, trans people, you know, any gender non-conforming person. The bathroom is like the point of anxiety and conflict. So this is something that happens to me all the time, and I think I'm quite mincing. So when I walk into a bathroom, I don't really, you know, I think I'm a girl, and then I walk in and people are like, "Get out! Get out! Security!" You know, and you know, I'm just, whoa, you know, where's my tampon? You know, when menopause happens, I'll have to have another strategy. But anyway. So I wanted to write that because that's an experience of a lot of my friends, and you know, Des spoke to me about that earlier today. So I wrote that with that in mind, and I don't think it's just a straight thing, because it's happened to me in a queer space as well, with lesbians shouting at me in a women's toilet. So, you know, very often we like go, straight people, ah! But we need to look at our own prejudices too, and you know, how we fear ourselves and how we also police ourselves. So I wrote that. The actress who plays the kind of woman, she is not like that at all in real life, by the way. I had to work with her in the disgust. Look disgusted. So yeah, and I'm glad it kind of touched people. It does everywhere, and it shows that it's an international, global experience, sadly.
Let's open it up for questions in the audience. If you have a question, raise your hand. Our volunteers will find you right here in the front.
Hi, thank you for that movie. It's really beautiful, and I think that the glimpse of London that you wanted to portray was really well captured, and it was nice to be able to see that here in San Francisco. And my question is, how and why did you pick sex work as the source of the conflict between Elle and JJ?
Good question. The first thing is that our history as queer people is of finding our geographical spaces in sex work areas. Like where we were welcomed historically were areas of sex work where prostitutes hung out, and that's where lots of queer clubs started. So it's kind of like an homage to that, but also I know many lesbians of different genders, not just femmes, who have been involved in sex work, and or people who have partners who are sex workers, and there's a silence around that and a taboo, and I kind of wanted to bring that to the front and go, you know, this is our life. We are part of everything. We're part of sex work. Sex workers are us. They're not some people out there, and we are the good kind of, you know, good lesbians, bad lesbians kind of divide. I wanted to kind of break that down. So that's why. Does that answer your question?
Is there another hand? Let's talk about music. Music definitely played a big part of the film and had a very unique kind of beat and rhythm to it. Can you tell us about the scoring and also the soundtrack? And I'm curious how that informed editing and pacing as well.
Thank you. The music that I use, well, it's a wonderful composer, Jessica Lauren, who I worked with on Femme and brought her back to work on this film. So she does the original score. But I wanted to use music that I like, that I dance to. I'm not an indie music person, sorry. And, you know, lots of queer films use that track, and it's just not me, you know. And I'm just like, I don't know, I don't go to clubs that play that sort of music. So the clubs that I go to play R&B, hip hop, ragga, dancehall. So I wanted to include that culture in a way that in London now, people are very queer people and straight people are very embedded in black culture, and I wanted to show the aspect of queer culture that's within, you know, that's embedded within black culture with white and black people, people of color, and I wanted to show that as well because that's very rarely shown, and that's through the music. You know, Seb can dance to dancehall, he can whine his little waist. It's not something that's alien to him, and he's like, "Ooh, so scary." You know, that's part of his culture too, and I wanted to show that we are them and they are us, and you know, we form a different layer, a subculture in London. I don't know if it's very similar to here, but you know, there is a subculture that's very queer and black and inhabited by all ethnicities in London.
I see a hand right over here.
How common is SM play among the lesbian groups? And what is the difference between the violence they experience and the violence that they enjoy?
That's a long, big question. Okay, let's talk about the characters. There's different kinds of violence in the film. There's non-consensual violence where, you know, bodies are attacked because they're being gender policed or homophobia or internalized homophobia, and I wanted to show that. But there's also consensual violence of pleasure, pain, and you know, lesbians, like all people of all sexualities, some enjoy pain, some don't. So I wanted to show not just about the lesbians, but women of color. I think there's a taboo around women of color and BDSM, and to show, yeah, you know, some black women are freaky, and you know, just put it out there to know that, you know, you're not alone. I read the forums on Facebook